Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tearing into an absolute masterclass in psychological manipulation. We're breaking down a complex con that goes so terribly wrong, it's almost hard to believe. We are looking at the story of this spiritualist. It's this wildly fascinating and ultimately tragic case study of deception, human vulnerability, and the really unexpected ways that a conscience can just kick in. We're going to map out exactly how a fraudulent haunting was engineered and how the architect behind that scam wound up trapped in a plot way more sinister than his own. The mechanics of this deception are absolutely wild, so let's just jump right into it. We start our story right on a foggy beach, where our protagonist, Charlene, hears the eerie, whispered voice of her late husband, Peter. And wow, talk about emotional whiplash, right? Because it's literally the night her new boyfriend, Melvin, is supposed to propose. Out of nowhere, through this thick fog, her dead husband speaks to her. But here's the kicker. When she goes to investigate, she doesn't find a ghost. Instead, she bumps into the strange, dark-eyed guy named Andrew DuPrey. He introduces himself as a spiritualist, and to instantly hook her, he starts whispering these deeply intimate secrets about her past, details a total stranger literally shouldn't know. By the time Melvin finally shows up, Charlene looks away for just a split second and boom, Andrew vanishes into thin air. I mean, as far as theatrical introductions go, it is perfectly orchestrated. Section 1. A Voice in the Fog. So to really understand how this scam operates, we've got to look at how the haunting systematically targeted Charlene's emotional vulnerabilities right at the exact moment she was finally trying to move on. The escalation here is just rapid fire, stacking impossible event after impossible event to completely shatter her reality. See, Charlene accepts Melvin's proposal that night on the beach, but the second Melvin goes home, her house turns ice cold. And it starts. First, her dead husband's favorite eerie piano music just starts playing out of nowhere. Then we see a highly symbolic attack. Her brand new engagement ring actually vanishes right off her finger, only to be replaced by her old wedding ring from Peter. And then the grand finale of this psychological assault, her old wedding dress, which she kept locked up tight in the attic, is suddenly hanging right in front of her closet, swaying gently like an invisible entity is wearing it. If that was you, wouldn't your grip on reality start to slip just a little bit? Section 2. Anatomy of a Scam. Completely terrified by all this, Charlene seeks out our mysterious psychic, Andrew, at his mansion. And when she gets there, doors are opening by themselves, objects are literally floating through the air. She's amazed, and honestly, she's deeply comforted. But here's what we really need to understand. Andrew wasn't just performing cheap parlor tricks. He was deliberately, methodically gaslighting Charlene. He was creating a totally manufactured reality where only he could communicate with her dead husband. This makes her entirely dependent on him for any kind of peace of mind. And because her reality was already so fractured by what happened at her house, she eagerly starts handing over absolute fortunes to him just for the chance to connect with Peter. So, here's the reality check. This was a highly structured, data-driven fraud. It relied on a creepy secretary's online research and a bunch of hidden wires, not the supernatural. It basically operated in 3 distinct phases. First off, that psychic intuition on the beach? Yeah, that was just Andrew's secretary painstakingly digging up Charlene's private data online. Step 2, those magical floating objects in his mansion? Fully rigged with hidden wires. And finally, step 3, he uses that illusion of contact to extract a massive fortune. It's a completely terrestrial, mechanical scam that's just dressed up as a spiritual awakening. It's cold, it's calculating, and man, is it effective. Section 3. The Undercover Investigation. Now, Charlene's sister, Janelle, and her fiancé, Melvin, they aren't buying any of this. They suspect fraud right away and actually consult a detective who specializes in busting fake psychics. They know something is deeply, deeply wrong, and they absolutely refuse to let Charlene get bled dry. But there's a catch. Andrew is a known ex-con, so he'd instantly recognize a police detective's face. So Janelle bravely volunteers to go undercover. Her mission? Sneak in and secure Andrew's fingerprints from a drinking glass. They need that hard proof of his identity to shut the whole operation down. It's a super tense, risky move, and it marks a major shift in our story. We're moving from passive victimhood right into active resistance. But Andrew is way too smart for that. When he catches Janelle trying to swipe his glass, he doesn't get angry. Instead, he pivots to this incredible charm offensive. He uses deep eye contact, swears his magic is real, and leaves Janelle completely smitten. Honestly, it's a total masterclass in deflection. He disarms her completely by looking her right in the eyes and actually admitting he has a rough past. That plays right into her sympathy. But he insists, despite all that, his gift is genuine. And this charm offensive works so flawlessly that Janelle, the very person sent in to expose him, ends up falling for him hard. Section 4. The Ultimate Twist. Right after Andrew pulls off this massive, incredibly spooky sounds that actually leaves both sisters totally convinced of his powers, we hit a narrative twist that completely flips the board. Once the doors close and the sisters head home, Andrew thinks he's won the jackpot. But then, a man steps out of the shadows of the mansion. It's Peter, and he is very much alive. Turns out, 2 years ago, Peter faked his own death just to escape his mounting debts. Now, think about what this actually means for a second. The ghost that started this entire psychological breakdown wasn't some clever trick by our fake psychic, it was the actual husband hiding in the dark the whole time. So now we're looking at a pretty stark contrast between two very different types of villains. On side A, we have the greedy con artist Andrew, who, let's face it, is just scamming for money. But on side B, we have a true terrifying villain, Peter. He faked his death and is now back with a genuinely horrifying goal. He wants to literally scare Charlene to death so he can claim her inheritance. And because Peter has been watching and knows exactly how Andrew's scam works, he actively blackmails the fake psychic into helping him finish this lethal job. The dynamic flips in an instant, right? The master manipulator is suddenly a hostage to an actual sociopath.
Section 5, A Fatal Redemption. This deadly new alliance comes to a head out on the foggy cliffs right outside Charlene's home. Peter plays his creepy voice recording to lure Charlene into a fatal trap, and the plan is officially in motion. A terrified Charlene is drawn out into the dark by her husband's voice, loses her footing in the fog, and is left dangling helplessly over these jagged rocks below. Now Andrew is outside too. He's supposed to be keeping Janelle distracted, but when he looks up and sees Charlene literally about to fall to her death, his conscience just unexpectedly kicks in. The grifter who steals money realizes, no way, he absolutely cannot be a party to murder. He breaks away from Peter's evil plan, sprints up the cliffside, and pulls Charlene to safety. In a split second, the con man becomes the savior.
But of course, the danger isn't over. Melvin begs Charlene to go to a hospital, but the gaslighting was so effective that she's essentially brainwashed by the ghost and refuses to leave her house. Because she won't leave, the hauntings just keep going. That is until Janelle finally smells a rat. The next time that ghostly voice echoes through the halls, Janelle doesn't run away. She investigates. She searches the house and ends up uncovering Peter and Andrew in this hidden command center tucked back by the garage. They are surrounded by microphones, sound effects, wires, the whole shebang. The entire illusion is shattered. But Peter, who's just been caught red-handed trying to murder his wife, whips out a pistol and aims it straight at Janelle's chest. In a totally chaotic, rapid-fire climax, Andrew screams no and actually throws himself right in front of Janelle, taking the bullet that was meant for her. And at that exact second, the police, who Melvin had smartly called earlier, batter down the front door. A massive shootout erupts. Peter spins around, firing blindly, but the cops fire back, and Peter drops to the floor, dead for real this time. The overarching villain is defeated, but it comes at a terrible cost. Andrew, the guy who started this whole mess as a cynical fraud, is bleeding out on the floor, dying to save the woman he had just charmed days before. As Janelle kneels beside him, crying, Andrew looks up, gives one last weak, sad smile, honestly just glad that she's safe, and closes his eyes for the final time. And it leaves us with this really profound, lingering question. Can a final act of true bravery, of ultimate self-sacrifice, actually erase a history of deception and fraud? I mean, we saw a man use data and wires to exploit a woman's grief, but when he was faced with true evil, he gave his own life to stop it. So what do you think is the ultimate price of redemption? Thank you for exploring this wild explainer with me today, and hey, always remember to question the reality in front of you.